Welcome back! My name is ballerscuba. This is Video Games Over Time. We are still in 1978, and today we're going to talk about Space Invaders. Our story begins with Taito. We have mentioned Taito in previous videos. Taito was an arcade game manufacturer in Japan. They had been releasing electromechanical arcade games since the 1960s. In 1973, Taito began making arcade video games for the Japanese market. Should those games prove successful in Japan, Taito would license Midway Games, a Chicago-based amusement game manufacturer, to release the games in North America. We have mentioned two of these successful games already. The first, Speed Race, was originally released in 1974. The second, Western Gun, was released in 1975. Both of these hits were designed by Tomohiro Nishikado, two of the 10 games he had made for Taito at this point. In 1977, Tomohiro Nishikado began working on his 11th game for Taito. Inspired by Atari's Breakout, Nishikado began working on a game with a top-down perspective, with the player on the bottom. Nishikado wanted to give the player a sense of accomplishment from clearing the targets and completing a stage. Instead of having a ball destroy bricks, though, Nishikado decided to create a shooting game. Nishikado began by using conventional warfare targets, such as tanks, planes, and battleships. But Nishikado was not happy with how these targets moved on the screen. On top of that, Nishikado considered shooting humans immoral. So Nishikado started looking elsewhere for inspiration. In particular, he looked to the 1974 anime Space Battleship Yamato and the 1977 movie Star Wars, deciding to use a space theme for his new game. For the actual designs of the aliens, Nishikado was inspired by H.G. Wells's The War of the Worlds, as well as real-life squids and crabs. The original name for the game was going to be Space Monsters, after the popular 1978 Japanese song Monster by Pink Lady. But Taito changed it to Space Invaders. When the game was released, the cabinet was painted with monsters on the side of it that appeared nowhere in the game. Nishikado attributed this to the game's previous name. Nishikado also took inspiration from the American version of his game Western Gun, which was released by Midway as Gunfight. Seeing how Midway's version had improved graphics and smoother animation, Nishikado decided to use a microprocessor for his new game. He had to create his own custom hardware, as Japanese microcomputers were behind their American counterparts. Nishikado used an Intel 8080 microchip as the game's processor, and used a combination of analog circuitry and a Texas Instruments SN76477 sound chip to create the game's sound. Nishikado was not happy with his initial results, but he did notice that as fewer aliens remained on the screen, the animation would speed up and the aliens would move more quickly. He decided to keep it in the game as a challenge. Much like Breakout, Space Invaders originally did not have a color display. Instead, the game had a colored piece of cellophane placed over the monster to show color to the player. Nishikado designed a 4-note loop of music that would play throughout the game, reminiscent of a heartbeat. This was the first time that a game would have music during gameplay, instead of just having introduction music and sound effects. This game would have background music and sound effects at the same time. On top of that, as aliens were destroyed, the music would increase in tempo, giving the player a sense of anxiety and doom as the aliens moved closer and closer. Space Invaders was released by Taito in Japan in June 1978. The game proved to be almost impossibly successful. By the end of 1978, Taito installed over 100,000 machines, and grossed over $600 million in Japan alone, over $2.3 billion in 2020. Taito licensed the North American release to Midway, who would release the game in July 1978. It did phenomenally well there, as expected. By 1980, Taito had sold over 300,000 machines in Japan, while in America, 60,000 machines were sold that year alone. Not only was Space Invaders the best-selling video game of its time, Space Invaders was the highest-grossing entertainment product of its time, proving to be more profitable than even Star Wars. In fact, adjusted for inflation, Space Invaders' total profits through 2020 are said to be over $13 billion, making it the highest-grossing video game of all time. With the background of Space Invaders told, it's now time to play the game for ourselves. And here we are in Space Invaders. This is the original version of the game. As you can see, we have a very silent title screen here. Not a lot going on until the game actually gets underway, and then all of a sudden, the screen is populated. You're going to be the player at the bottom. Well, I'm going to be the player at the bottom, and I will probably die. This is known as a difficult game. In fact, in later years, Tomohiro Nishikado apologized for how difficult the game is, but I think that's part of the appeal. Play with an upside down Y. Let's get into the game. We're going to put 2 credits in. I'm going to go through it twice, and we'll see what I can do. I'm not the best at this game by any means. No high score here today. But we'll see what I can do. I think my goal is to clear a screen without dying once. At least clearing a screen would be nice. Getting rid of all of these Space Invaders, the aliens that are coming for us. Or something. They're coming to destroy us all. I'm playing a little risky by staying on the far left there because I can't dodge and they can shoot me from there. So, yeah, the game has a lot of different strategies to it. I pretty much just like clearing things as they come. As you can see, it's very easy. Oh, just missed it. You can only have 1 bullet on the screen at a time, so, you know, if you miss, good luck. I like typically clearing, you know, whatever's in front of me. I don't necessarily have a set strategy on how I destroy things. Typically, I go left to right simply because you spawn on the left. Some people like to go from the bottom up. In fact, I did a little research. Yeah, 50 points. I did a little research on the high score because this is the first game that you can do with a high score. The other games that we've played, there was a maximum point that you could reach, and that was pretty much it. With Pong, it was, you know, first to 11. With Breakout, it was the first to defeat 2 or 3 screens if you use an exploit. Gotcha. In Colossal Cave Adventure, there was a maximum points that you could get, and I forgot what it was. It was like 350. Well, it depended on the version, I remember. In this game, there is no set high score number. Oh, the heartbeat's getting faster, and the aliens are moving faster too. All right, this is where things get real difficult. When there's just 1 or 2 enemies to go, they start moving very quickly, and it's difficult to get the timing just right. And then I died. Super. That's not going to be helpful. All right. There. And he got me! Jeez! I hit the button. I didn't even see that he was attacking. Alright, gotcha. Alright, 1140. I will take that. I cleared a screen. That's something. As I will go through twice. I did look up the high score just to see what the actual high score was. It is absolutely ridiculous. So it's like, wow. There was nothing I can do. Like I say, playing on the left is risky. Let's go in. We'll try again. My high score is now 1,230. That's not a very good score. I'm not going to lie. I've said before, I'm not very good at this game. I didn't grow up with this game. But the high score of all time apparently is over 200,000. I don't understand. It took hours. It takes that long to get through this. Like I said, notoriously a difficult game. Usually once you start getting to fewer aliens and they start moving faster, especially since the music picks up, it just unnerves you just enough. So that's something to be on the lookout for, right? You're gonna tense up as you progress. So keep an eye out. Try to do as best as you can. I need to take care of some of these guys over here. They're a little bit too far down. Yeah, playing on the edges is not always recommended. I'm not even going to try to get that. Apparently, the way to get the high score in this game is to try to farm the UFOs at the top. That's apparently the way that the high-ranking guys go, but that's not my strategy today. I'm trying to clear things. I want the sense of accomplishment. Really? Like, I couldn't go left, so, like, my only option was right, and then, I couldn't go to the right fast enough. Oh, this isn't looking good. This is not looking good at all. Yeah, I didn't even see the thing on the screen. Alright, well, I think that's good enough. Maybe, you know what, we'll do one more. We'll put in one more coin. Yeah, like I said, a notoriously difficult game. There's a lot going on, even though everything seems so simple. There's a lot of different strategies to this one, but you know, ultimately, I'm not subscribing to any of them. We're gonna try to do what we can to just I just want to clear screens. That's all I'm looking for. If I get the aliens at the top, super bonus. But other than that, we're gonna stick to killing the crabs, to killing the squid, and to killing the War of the Worlds monsters. Yeah, I wasn't angled right. Oh well. I have seen the strategy where you destroy your protection in front of you. If memory serves me right, those are supposed to be like bases, but maybe I'm confusing that with a later game. Either way, we're making. Once again, I feel like where I am is cut off a lot. Yeah, I'm going to stay away from that side. That I should be able to go further to the corners than I actually can. And that's one of my issues. Alright, we got that one. Okay. There's a green one. I don't like it when they turn green. When they're on the cellophane like that, that's not good for me. 50 points. Alright. We're doing okay this time. Yeah, they're starting to pick up speed. That has a lot to do with, like, the mechanics of the processor and all that, but... way too early. No, he moved faster there! Oh, come on! I had him. There we go. Alright, cleared the screen. Don't know if I'm going to beat my first score here, but... we'll see what I can do. We're on the second screen. Don't think I'm going to clear a second screen. As you can see, they start just shooting a ton. They also start a lot lower. Like, the game gets really difficult very quickly. Everything seems fine, and then all of a sudden it doesn't. And you are screwed. Nah, just missed. I was actually aiming for the UFO there. But just a little early. What? Don't freak me out. Yeah, there was nowhere for me to go there. Like I said, playing the corners is risky, but eventually you have to do it. I didn't even see that coming. Hey, I got a new high score, though. I got 1,540. I'm going to call that good. Yeah, is the game fun? Sure. But I'll talk about that a little bit more in a bit. Don't you taunt me up there. They fix it. How nice of them. With the gameplay, it's time to talk about how the game holds up today. Ultimately, I feel that Space Invaders, at its core, has something to it. It has an intriguing premise that still drives people today. It's fun, still today. even as basic, as bare bones as the game might be. There's something intrinsic about the way that the game is set up that still brings fun. It brings an intensity. It brings a sense of horror and dread and just hope that you can actually get all of the invaders. There's something about the game that still, I think, holds up well. And that is its core gameplay. The fact that it really is just you moving to the left and to the right and hitting the button and hoping that you can kill all of these things in time. That is the goal of the game. And every time you miss, it hurts. Like it does bring this kind of sense of a little bit of failure just to shoot and see it go through the entire columns, just miss everything. But ultimately, the game is fun, but I don't know how much I would want to play it over the course of time. It's something that I will willingly put a couple quarters in if I see it at an arcade, but it's not something that I would dedicate a lot of time to, especially not enough time to even ever get the high score for it. I would get bored, before I would get to 200,000 points in that game. So there's something to the game. There's something fun. There's something, like I said, intense about the game. The heartbeat, the fact that the monsters move faster, the aliens shoot back at you and you have to dodge all the time. That's something that is going to hold up over the course of time. That core gameplay is fantastic, and I think that contributed a lot to its initial success, and I think there's a reason that people still try to emulate something like Space Invaders now, with that just kind of intensity that people can get from playing Space Invaders. There's something to that. With that said, though, the graphics, they're decent for the time. I would say good for the time, actually. I would say they're good for the time. They don't hold up well today, obviously. They're just little pixelated sprites that are moving across the screen in very jerky motion. But for the time, I feel like it's acceptable. I still feel like it's more of a style than a sense of limitations of the hardware or anything like that. But that is kind of a choice today. At the time, it was a limitation of the hardware, and Tomohiro Nishikado just made it work. But if you see something like that today with that jerky motion, it's definitely kind of a retro style. But there's a reason that style still exists, is because this was done so well. In terms of the sound, I mean, we're talking 4 notes for background music. I have to give the game credit for having background music, because a lot of the games at the time did not. We'll talk about that a little bit more later, but the idea that there is background music, that there is something, there are noises basically that go on while nothing happens on screen, or you're not doing anything on screen, is something new. I think with the limitations of the time, just using the 4 notes for a heartbeat is revolutionary. I mean, it worked so well. It brings this sense of anxiety as the aliens get closer. It works so well. But I wouldn't necessarily call it background music. That's how I refer to it throughout this video, as background music, but I'm not sure necessarily it's music. It's a background sound effect in my mind. But it works really well, and it was considered background music at the time. So, this is kind of my opinion on the thing. But yeah, the graphics are limited. The sound's limited. Of course they are. They're products of their time. The gameplay, though, is, I would say, good. I wouldn't say it held up as well as it, necessarily could have, but the gameplay has something about it that still draws people to the game. And I think that is the highlight of this game, even today, is that there's something that just works about Space Invaders. And it is something that if you see, hanging out at an arcade, you see somebody playing it, you want friends to come over and play it. I would recommend Space Invaders, especially if you're doing some kind of retro arcade style game. You have to include Space Invaders. And I think that it does hold up well enough for something like that. Absolutely, without a doubt. And that at least is my modern take on Space Invaders. So let's talk about how it was received at the time. And let's talk about its legacy and impact. Space Invaders is credited with being the game that transformed video games from a novelty to a global industry. Its influence on the video game industry is hard to overstate. Space Invaders created a lot of precedents in the video game industry. It was the first game to popularize the concept of getting a high score, with the cabinet itself saving the player's score between play sessions. It was the first shooting game where the targets could fire back at the player, where the player had multiple lives, where the player could take cover, and the first game to use destructible barriers. All of these would become popular themes in video games for decades to come. As must be expected at this point, Space Invaders would spawn remakes, sequels, and clones. We will examine a few of these as we continue going through the years. As for Tomohiro Nishikado, the sole creator of Space Invaders, we will see more games from him in the future. Taito itself shot to the top of the industry, so it only makes sense that more video games will come from them. We will see much more from Taito as we continue. That is going to do it for Space Invaders. My name is ballerscuba. This has been Video Games Over Time. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in our next video, where we'll talk about the video game industry in 1978.